Good morning. Welcome to Environmental Coffee House Pajama Sunday. And I've got a pretty serious show today, a very busy show today. We're going to talk about, past events leading to current events, what's happening, who's a rebel, what does Shay Lives mean? As I put in the beginning or the show notes, when I was a kid, I grew up in Northern California and we would drive back and forth to San Francisco, and there was a big billboard, and across the billboard it said Shay Lives. And I was tiny, young, tiny kid, but I always wanted to know, okay, what does it mean? And as I've been thinking about this a lot lately, all of these events that have now kind of come together are really gave me the idea for this show to talk about Che Guevara and Roger Hallam and even Ted Kaczynski. I mean, who people think are rebels. Some people do think that that the violence is the way or violence isn't the way. But that's not exactly. I'm not making that decision. I'm just going to talk about my notes and what I have put together for this. I mean, it took me some time. So let me just say really good morning, Foggy, and good morning, Rishi, and good morning, Bella and Alex, and Make America Green Again, and Obsolete, and Mark. It's really good to see you all here. I don't know anybody else who's here because I am actually really have to concentrate on this show. So anyone who has researched Che and the Cuban Revolution in school, we learned it one way. And we know that in the West, of course, we've been taught that Che was horrible. He was probably misrepresented. And that's the doing of our CIA, most likely. The fact is that he was seen as, anti-Marxist in America, and that he was a ruthless mass murderer, which he was a murderer. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat this. Killing is killing, okay? Killing is killing. And at the time, the early story of him is that he was a medical student and he left Argentina, where he was from, took a motorcycle trip, went all over Latin America, and saw and was deeply moved by the poverty that he saw. And it was mainly due to imperialism, and a lot of it due to the United States. I mean, there's no argument there. And I'm going to take you from there, and I'm going to weave a bit of a story with this. It's funny. I wanted to talk about, okay, so what would he be thinking today? He was murdered in 1960, I think it was 68 or 67 or 68 by Bolivians and the CIA, of course, with help from the CIA, because nothing ever changes. But I also wanted to talk about what he would think, and also bring in Hallam and kind of juxtaposition the two of them and throw in a little bit of Kaczynski, even though he was a big loser and had his manifesto. But see, I believe from my studies and from my look at my work, and this is something I've been working on for a while, but because of what happened the other day in the United States and what the fallout has been, I decided to do this show now. And I guess he would think, and a lot of us think, that the real violence is systemic. Okay. Systemic in the United States, but all over the world. Climate collapse and mass incarceration, poisoned water, militarized police, which is violence, right? And he believed that revolutionary struggle, it must be organized, collective, and not chaotic, which is how Roger Hallam sees things. And it says I mean, what I'm thinking, with the random acts of violence like we saw, it plays into the hands of reactionaries. And we're seeing that now in social media. If we are to do anything good, our mass movements have to be built around justice and sustainability, sustaining that justice. And those are real threats to entrenched power. But is it going to happen? I mean, don't confuse the noise with the signal. The far right's violent spasms show the system's fragility. And political violence in the United States today is just, it's off the charts. Political violence, just senseless killing, gun industry, just throwing them out to people in different states. I happen to live in New York State. I do have a concealed carry. I've never said I didn't for self-defense because I live in America. But the real movement I see to fight the climate crisis, if it's at all possible, is actually a movement. It's strong enough to dismantle the capitalist machine. And that's driving us. It's driving us towards climate collapse and authoritarian rule where we are. We are seeing this now. We are seeing it now. We are on the verge of climate collapse. But I'm not one to say, okay, we're going to collapse tomorrow. And I had Elliot Jacobson on the other day, and there are so many voices, but we're not prognosticating dates. Che Guevara and Roger Hallam, two very important voices, I think. One, violent. I think what happened to Che may have been that, well, a lot of times people, they start out with good intentions. And it changes. And that is what happened to him, I do believe. But he saw the United States. He did not like the United States. The United States to him was an imperialist conqueror. Now, Che believed the only way to break the machine was armed struggle. And he saw the system as inherently violent. And he thought only greater force could tear it down. So his life, particularly, was short and brutal and iconic. And his image is still a global system of, resistance. That's where the Che lives comes in. But was it really? And that's for you to make up your minds, not for me to tell you. Now, Roger comes from a completely different angle. He says the system is suicidal. It's driving us straight into climate collapse. But that you can't outgun the state. His revolution is nonviolent disruption, sit-ins, roadblocks, mass arrests, annoy millions to wake billions. And he's not trying to seize power. He's trying to force governments to finally face reality. And he has spent time in prison because of it. So what do they share? They both refuse to accept business as usual. They both demand that we look at the violence of capitalism, whether it's in the jungles of the 1960s or in the burning forests of today. And they both said, we've had enough. We've had enough. We've had enough. So what have we seen? I have some videos to show you. I'm hoping people are joining. I hope people are enjoying what I am saying. Everybody has different thoughts. Everybody has different viewpoints. Everybody's worldview is shaped by where they come from, where they grew up, who they are, what they read, and now particularly social media, which we have completely seen. And I'm going to play something quickly.
On the line with us is John.
Whoops. Sorry. I have a problem setting up stuff, but I want to play this older Tom Hartman clip. Now, believe it or not, this guy, the guy that he's talking to, is saying he was a conservative at this time. I think this was 2012. Let's watch this. Let's watch this, and we're going to go on and talk about that. I have other clips. I have lots of stuff. I really worked hard on this. I wrote a lot, but I took a lot of notes. I'm an old-fashioned note taker. If I actually sat here and didn't type it out, I would have my papers in front of me. And between other things that I'm doing, I came up with this show for Sunday. And yes, let me tell you, I am too. Thank you. I am too. Thank you. Now let's watch this.
On the line with us is John W. Whitehead, a constitutional attorney and president of the Rutherford Institute, author of the new book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People. Rutherford is rutherford.org, a conservative think tank.
It's
John,
long,
welcome to the program.
but it's worth it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So our government is waging war on us. Are you not concerned also about the corporations that are waging war on us?
Oh, yeah, the corporations behind it. I mean, as that recent Princeton study showed, the country's been run by an oligarchy, sure. Funding all the militarized equipment. People have argued that it's just giveaway equipment from Afghanistan. If you do your research, sir, you'll find out that at least 40% of that equipment is new, produced by the corporations. So the country is run by the corporate elite, and they're using the police as mercenaries.
So, and I don't disagree with that. And this was set up in large part, starting in 1976 with the Buckley versus Vallejo decision by the Supreme Court, saying that money is protected by the First Amendment. The ability to buy a politician is protected by the First Amendment. So we have all these large corporations that are buying our politicians. How do we get a democracy back that's responsive to we the people rather than just the corporate elite and the billionaire class?
Well, how I argue in my book, okay, America, is that, and I spend the last section of the book, my hero is Martin Luther King. Before he died, he wrote a tremendous essay that came out after he died, or after he was shot and murdered. He argued for militant nonviolent resistance. He was going to take over Washington with a thing called Resurrection City, bring people in, very organized. They were going to, he said, the government no longer listens to us. So what I'm telling people is get active on the local level, especially when you see these crazy SWAT team raids where they're going through people's doors, shooting unarmed citizens, those kind of things. Pass a resolution by your town prohibiting that unless it's approved by a civil liberties committee set up. So there are many things we can do, but we're going to have to get involved. The average American watches about 150 hours of television a month. What I'm telling people is give 80 hours of that for freedom and get active on the local level. I think you have much less impact. In fact, that Princeton study shows, you may be familiar with it, it says really clearly that the average voter on the national level has very little impact. But on the local level, I tell you this, I've seen 10 people with picket signs change the law in the local community. And getting active and following the principles of Martin Luther King, it does work.
So the central focus of the concern of your book is government overreach.
Overreach, overcriminalization. I mean, there's a guy in Texas now spending 17 days in jail because his grass was too high. We're involved in cases where people have a single chicken in their backyard for eggs. Well, you know, the large corporate entities that run the supermarkets, they help pass laws against that. Right. We had a case in Norfolk, Virginia, where the police arrived and actually took the chicken in custody and went off with it. We're seeing all those kind of cases.
Well, sometimes that's zoning. I mean, don't you think that people in a local community should have the right to
large national groups that are connected to corporations that are passing those laws that they want to make sure that you can't collect rainwater on your property now? There's a guy now serving jail time for that. Yeah. So what's happened is we've lost control of our local communities. And what I'm telling people, get this, you better get it back soon. Because, it's happening in the schools too. We have a case right now where a 4-year-old in preschool is throwing a little fit. Police arrived, put him in handcuffs and shackles, took him to the police station and put him in an isolation room. His mother was only 5 minutes away. They didn't even talk to her. Again, you can change that. Get down to your local school board. They shouldn't be handcuffing kids or tasering kids in public schools now, middle school students. So,
yeah, the good news on all of this is that you can change it, and the things that you're talking about are principally local issues, and I don't disagree with the local hyper-militarization of the police, the turning them into warriors, essentially, moving them, transforming them from serve and protect to occupy and control, I guess, has been the mode. But what about things like, in May of 2014, last year, there was 2 chlorine dioxide chemical leaks. This is very, very poisonous stuff from a coke-owned facility, cellulose facility in Taylor County, Florida. You had ongoing releases of benzene and other chemicals from Koch's oil refinery in Corpus Christi. This is cancer stuff. Hundreds of thousands of pounds of toxic chemical contamination from coke-owned Georgia Pacific facility in Crossett, Arkansas, is reported in 2011. In 2000, the EPA fined Koch Industries $30 million for 300 oil spills that resulted in more than 3 million gallons of crude. I mean, isn't there a point at which we say, okay, on the one hand, we don't want militarized government snooping on us. But on the other hand, you've got big corporations out there that have so much power. They own so many politicians. They have so many lawyers. You try and take them on, they crush you like a bug. Their power, with the single exception of the legal incarcerate or kill you, which is held by the government, their power is virtually limitless, and the extent to which they control the government, they could probably even exercise that kind of government power. How, if you want to diminish the size and power of government, what else is there that can protect us from the billionaire class and predatory corporations that are despoiling our planet and our communities?
Well, you're right. They're despoiling the communities. The environmental concerns are very important. We shouldn't allow that. But what I've seen, I'm a civil liberties lawyer. The thing that I've seen that changed things most is people getting active. I love the Occupy movement. In 2011, they beat the holy poop out of them. They put them down. I wish that would come back. We need to revive those we need to get the young people involved. But I think Martin Luther King was right. He said that it's time to march on Washington, get together local communities, but it's going to have to be here and there and here and there and here and there.
So you don't want to talk about corporate power?
Do what?
I'm asking what do we do about corporate power in the United States? Frankly, I'm much more concerned about the fact that when I was a kid, every downtown and every local mall was nothing but local businesses, and now they're nothing but jobs.
Read the book because I have a whole section on Mussolini and Hitler.
Yeah.
What Mussolini, he coined the term corporatism. He was praised by the New York Times. He was praised at the time of genius. Winston Churchill praised him. Yep. I'm against corporate control of government. I would throw the corporate government. How in the world do we do that? I haven't heard a politician in years speak against it, basically.
Well, Bernie Sanders is running
in power, and then they don't do it. So how do you do that? The only thing that works in this America is up, down, the bottom activism by the American people. If we don't do that, and you can stop the corporations, I think. Get outside. If you don't like what they're doing, they're polluting the Coca-Cola plant with 40 or 50 demonstrators, and if you decide you want to do a little civil disobedience, set in.
Right, but here's the difference. See, Coca-Cola can have you arrested, whereas if you protest at your local member of Congress's office, they can't because government respond to us. Corporations are not supposed to respond to us.
Some of the cases.
Yeah.
Here's the point. Martin Luther King said this. He said,
John, do you know that that the entire congressional caucus, which is the largest or second largest caucus in Congress, has endorsed an amendment to the Constitution to say that the Supreme Court was wrong in '76 when they said that political money is protected by the First Amendment, and that they were wrong in Citizens United when they said that corporations should have the same rights as human beings.
I agree with all that.
Okay, so move2amend.org, organizations like totally bipartisan. In fact, a lot of Tea Partiers are members of move2amend.org.
Who wrote the Fourth Amendment weren't talking about corporations. They were talking about slaves, okay?
Yeah.
They did equal rights.
Yeah, the 14th Amendment. Yeah.
It's all been screwed over by money and power.
Well, it's the railroads.
The candidates today, when they run for office, have to have so much money to run for office. Who's controlling that? The corporate. People ask me, when you vote for the president, who do you vote for? You vote for a corporation.
Right.
We all know that.
So you are in favor of a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics?
Get it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. And from
I think
the
this
Rutherford Institute, I never thought I'd say that. But
the three most beautiful words in English language are "we the people." That's how the Constitution starts. We are the government.
Where are we now? So that was 2012. I thought it was worth playing the whole clip, and I do have the website. I have the website, and I thought it was really interesting because this is what, 2012 again, and it's only gotten worse. And why? We try to figure that out, right? Of course, they didn't have they weren't talking about Citizens United necessarily, but they were talking about what's happened since, the corporations owning everything, the imperialism of the United States. This is history. This is history we're talking about. This is not my opinion. It's history we are talking about. All right. So there's just so much on my mind I'd like to say, but it is history. And the CIA was built to be the sharp end of the spear of our imperial power. Not just intelligence gathering, but active intervention to protect U.S. corporate, military, and geopolitical interests. And it is still happening. Here's history. 1947, it was. Just as the Cold War was starting. It was supposed to collect intelligence, but it became the U.S. government's tool for covert action, overthrowing governments, rigging elections, funding militias, and spreading propaganda. Wow, right? So when, like what happened in Latin America, like what Che saw, like what's happening with the climate crisis, which is getting worse because the fossil fuel industry owns everything. And when the foreign country threatened U.S. business interests, the CIA stepped in. It happened in Iran, 1953. CIA overthrew democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh. Okay, after he nationalized oil, which was bad. It was really bad for BP and the U.S. oil companies. And then again, Guatemala, 1954, overthrew Jacobo Arbenz after he moved to redistribute unused land owned by United Fruit. That's a big one. The CIA became the enforcer for U.S. corporations. And so when this dude that Tom Hartman had on as a guest, this is exactly what he was talking about. And of course, the U.S. always justified it by saying, well, we're stopping communism, And it's just worse now because now people don't even understand the terms. They don't understand what they're saying. So in practice, right, it was supporting Pinochet and Suharto and the Shah of Iran. They were brutal, but of course they like the U.S., so it's okay, And so regime change was a policy. And even after Che Guevara died, it just kept going, just got worse. But he was the one that saw it. And I'm not going to talk about Cuban history, and I'm not going to talk about Fidel Castro or any of that. I'm just talking about the juxtaposition between these people and what they saw, and what Roger Hallam sees, and even what Ted Kaczynski saw. Not judging. But now, well, the CIA is now, counterterrorism, cyber warfare, proxy wars. It hasn't changed. So wherever U.S. hegemony is threatened, we go. Look at Venezuela. The boat. Now it's drugs. The boat. And so that's maintaining the American empire, at least in my opinion, I'm not telling you how to think. I'm giving you history because these are things that happened. These are actual things that happened. In the 60s, the United States was involved in the Congo and Cuba and South Vietnam. We saw the Vietnam War. Brazil, Indonesia, the 70s, Chile, Argentina, Afghanistan, the 80s, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Panama, 90s, Iraq, the Balkans, present, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya. I could go over and over all of this. It's a lot of history. I'm just bringing it up because it's all going to lead to the climate crisis, because the ideology is really the fossil fuel industry. They own us. And the fossil fuel industry goes hand in hand with white Christian nationalism. So I want to compare a little bit Roger and Che again. Roger, we all know, I interviewed him. He founder of Extinction Rebellion. It was great, and I do have a clip from him. His core belief is that climate change is an existential emergency. That is my core belief. He believes that the system must be disrupted to force governments to act. I don't know how that's going to happen in the United States. Right now we see the militarization of our cities. And it does make one want to be a doomer or feel like a doomer. It's awfully overwhelming to see what's happening. But people on the streets are fighting back in certain instances. So when Roger believed in the nonviolent mass civil disobedience, he got arrested because of it in the UK. But his ideology is anti-capitalist, but not necessarily for Roger in a classical Marxist sense. He sees climate collapse as the final failure of industrialized civilization. And he says moral shock and mass mobilization can spark systemic change, but he doesn't like violence. It delegitimizes the movement and it turns public opinion against it. And we just saw what's happening in the United States from one social media influencer with a big mouth and the violence bestowed upon him. Now, Che, he said capitalism and imperialism are engines of oppression. Well, what do you think out there? I'm sure a lot of you are blabbing in the chat. I haven't had a chance to look because I'm looking at my notes. And, he was involved in guerrilla warfare. Are we going to have guerrilla warfare on the streets in the United States? Some people all over social media are calling for this. It's truly a messed up time. But I'd say since 1492, it's been truly an imperialistic, messed up time. Che believed that socialism was the only path to dignity and independence. But something went wrong towards the end. And he saw imperialism as the enemy of humanity. And where are we? But he saw violence as necessary, and I don't necessarily agree with that. And and Roger will say, well, civilization has to reform to survive. And can we even force governments to act? It's 2025. What are we seeing? Is nonviolent disruption working? But will armed revolution work? And do these people now think that they are revolutionary? I don't know. What do you think would happen? If Che and Hallam met in some kind of world, what would they say to each other? I think that each one of them would realize that the ruling class is never going to be morally persuaded to give up power. They don't want to. Roger might say, I condemn the violence. It's counterproductive in our media age today. But business as usual, capitalism, totally incompatible with human survival. Yep. I think that says a lot. Now, what we're going to move to is what the heck is happening in our country, the United States, where I live in the United States. What's happening here? I have something to pull up, and I want to play. I don't know if this is going to be valuable. We can see if it is.
Hay una historia que nosotros debemos conocer y una experiencia que nos debe de servir. El otro día, los paracaidistas belgas tomaron por asalto la ciudad de Stanleyville, masacraron una cantidad grande de ciudadanos y como acto último, después de haberlos ultimado bajo la estatua del prócer Lumumba, volaron la estatua del expresidente del Congo. Eso nos indica a nosotros dos cosas. Primero, la bestialidad imperialista. Bestialidad que no tiene una frontera determinada ni pertenece a un país determinado. Bestias fueron las hordas hitleristas, como bestias son los norteamericanos hoy, como bestias son los paracaidistas belgas, como bestias fueron los imperialistas franceses en Argelia. Porque es la naturaleza del imperialismo la que bestializa a los hombres, la que la convierte en fieras sedientas de sangre que están dispuestas a degollar, a asesinar, a destruir hasta la última imagen de un revolucionario, de un partidario de un régimen que haya caído bajo su bota o que luche por su libertad. Y la estatua que recuerda a Lumumba, hoy destruida pero mañana reconstruida, nos recuerda también en la historia trágica de ese mártir de la revolución del mundo, que no se puede confiar en el imperialismo, pero ni tantito así, nada. Bajo la bandera de las Naciones Unidas en el Congo fue asesinado Lumumba.
He hated the United States. He hated the imperialism of the United States. Every individual has the moral right to protect their own life. Of course, this is a choice, but both choices are completely morally correct. Thank you, Che. I am Che. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to play you a little clip from my show with Roger. And I have to find it. And guess what? I don't know what happened to it. Hang on. Gee. Okay, hang on. All right.
If you want to be a rebel, then you've got to decide to be a rebel. You can't decide to be a rebel only if the going's good. You see what I mean?
Right. Because so the going may not be good. I mean, we are in a predicament that could be just detrimental. Well, it is, as I see it.
So the first thing is to ignore the world and just decide what you want to do. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So the second step.
Okay.
The second step. So I'm going to do my little manifesto here for you. But manifesto we wanted to talk about violence. We wanted to talk about violence and all this sort of stuff. So let me preempt you to go on to the next step, right? The next fundamental revolutionary step, right? The first one is from self-pity to enjoying yourself. The second revolutionary step, before we actually get out the door and start sitting on roads and things, the second fundamental step is to decide that you are not separate from the other, right? There is no separation fundamentally between you and your enemy, right? Which doesn't mean that they're not your enemy. It doesn't mean you're going to not go out and fight them. But there's not an absolute separation, because absolute separation is at the heart of the fascist extractive proposition, right? You know, nature is there. It's nothing to do with us. And we're going to fuck over that nature because it's nothing to do with us. We all know it is. Not in some sort of hippie woo-woo sort of way, but in physics, right?
Yeah.
Physics has shown that we're part of a common consciousness and all this sort of stuff, right? So is ancient wisdom, so is indigenous wisdom. So we just have this like little Western idea that you're there, Sandy, and you're nothing to do with me, and I'm Roger, and nothing to do with you. That's bollocks. It's metaphysically bollocks, right? It's not about morality. So when you go out,
love it,
and talk to your enemy, right? And I talk to a few of my enemies. I treat them with respect, not because I'm trying to be nice, but because they are actually, in some sense, in some fundamental sense, the same as me. And this is the foundational, like, rejection of violence, because the essence of violence is fascism. In fascism is the fundamental othering of the opponent. You know, the absolute othering. That's what justifies you killing them. And this is all well and good, and we've had 10,000 years of it. But for me and for people that are working on what the new civilization looks like, is we have to, once and for all, leave that tradition behind. All right? The foundational sort of the basis of the new civilization has to be connection, which doesn't mean we're not going to go into conflict, but we're not going to start killing people. As soon as you start killing people, you're the same as the capitalist. You're the same as the fascist, fundamentally.
I liked what he said there. And I know that there are people that think that the only way to go is violence. I happen not really to be one of them. But again, everything I present here is for you, not children. You to make a decision how you feel about current events or what's happening, presenting information not for you to think like I do, but for you to think like you do. So now we're going to move on, because the current events, my gosh, I mean, we have fallen so far down circling the drain in the United States. You know, I want to know, do you think that, I don't even know if I should say the name, CK, NF, the two of them. I mean, these days, I could have somebody come to my door for talking about this. And it's not funny. This is where we are living. Do you think that they were revolutionaries? What is a revolutionary? Do you think they sought radical systemic change? I don't know. So, what's a revolutionary? Revolutionary is they seek fundamental systemic power change, not just policy tweaks. They oppose current power structures. They want to change the norms. They want to push outside accepted bounds, possibly support extra-legal or radical methods. Now let's look at Mr. Kirk. His ideology was, he was the founder of Turning Points. He worked within electoral politics, media, conservative activism. And you look at him and you look at the dude that Tom Hartman had on, who was a conservative. Wow, world of difference. He promoted conservative values, limited government, free markets, pro-orange turd, you know, those things. And was he a revolutionary, though? Think about this. He opposed some existing norms like liberal academia and progressive policies. But he worked within the system. You know, he worked in social media. He was a person, he liked the money. I mean, he certainly started out without any. He's not advocating to overthrow a government. He wasn't advocating to replace the system entirely. But his movement did produce disruption, and it was a culture war, which we are in culture wars now all the time. Media provocations, but not a revolution in the traditional sense. No, because things are a lot different. He's not a revolutionary in the sense that Che Guevara or a radical leftist would use. He's a conservative activist. He doesn't want to overturn anything. Now, the other guy, Nick Fuentes. And then we're going to talk about the whole Groyper thing because it's interesting. And of course, I'm older, so I'm not involved in all of this. So Nick, he's a far-right commentator. He's an activist. He is the founder of the First Political Action Conference, which is a far-right conference that positions itself to the right of the mainstream GOP. Lovely. He has white supremacist Christian nationalist, anti-Semitic, misogynistic, anti-LGBTQ views, and he seeks a more explicitly ethno-nationalist exclusionary identity for the U.S. Completely polar opposite from really what any of us think or from what Roger Hallam thinks or what Che Guevara stood for. Although there were problems with Che, supposedly, in who he imprisoned. He's criticized, this Nick criticized mainstream conservatives for being too moderate. And he wants radical shifts, not incremental. So he says, okay, he advocates for more radical change than many in the ideological space. He wants almost a different identity politics. Now, I pulled all this together from stuff I read online, but you know, there might be a lot more to this because, again, I don't study either one of those people. But because it just happened, I really wanted to bring it all together to where we are today. This guy, he's revolutionary, it's rhetorical, it's ideological, it's cultural. He wants to shift that Overton window. Really make us a right-wing, ugly country. So maybe he's closer to being a revolutionary than the dearly departed. But neither one of them, they're not revolutionary. And this is what kids are seeing. This is what kids are seeing on social media that might have been in that right-wing ecosphere. This. Nothing for the good of people, really good of people. Nothing to eradicate poverty. Nothing to eradicate injustice, racism. None of that. They want just bring it on. More and more. Now, what is a Groyper? A Groyper, that's the name for the followers of Nick Fuentes and his far-right people. That's what it is. And so I suppose, from what I understand, the two sides had issues. And the Groypers wanted to push the white Christian nationalists even farther right. And so, you know, white nationalism is a belief in preserving a white Christian identity for the U.S., wanting the government to be just tied to conservative Christian values. Anti-Semitism, and racism. They openly push anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. They're hostile to immigrants, Black Americans, Muslims, and LGBTQ people. And they are anti-mainstream conservatism. So this is where we're going to find out, not from me, but from other commentators will delve into this deeper. But the Groypers, they attacked people like Charlie or even Ben Shapiro for being too moderate, too pro-Israel, too friendly, too diversity. Yeah. So there's a movie I guess it was called Groyper Wars 2019. I didn't get a chance to read it, but these people, they represent a openly fascist flank. They're younger, they're internet savvy, they're impatient with respectable conservatism. And they love the orange turd somewhat. They want a radical transformation in the United States, which I would say could be happening. It could be happening. And the techno utopia that a lot of these people want, that could be happening as well. So I've got a couple of things also to show you. And then I have to find another one. I don't know what happened to some of my videos, but they got lost. But let's look at this.
It's a message that says, yes, Charlie's gone. He's been taken from us far too young. But they just created 1 million, 10 million, 100 million more Charlie Kirks. They haven't seen anything yet. His legacy will continue to expand long after he's left us.
And they want us to be frightened. That's what they want. They want us to be frightened. They do. Now let's watch these two. First, I'll play this one.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West. And the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Come after us. Well, I beg to differ. Now I'm going to play this in juxtaposition. This.
We had our disagreements. Where we did agree is that he would go to these college campuses and proclaim the name of Jesus Christ. And ultimately, that is why he was killed. The gunmen that killed him, they hated him because of his defense of Christian morality. Charlie Kirk cannot call himself a Christian anymore. Sorry, you forfeited that. I do not want to hear, and you cannot allow Charlie Kirk to go to one more public event, one more question and answer, one more ask me anything, without being protested, without being shouted down, without being interrogated about this. This guy goes around from campus to campus in the most artificial and phony and fake way, talking about, oh, God made me very blessed that I control $500 million. Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so rich and I'm so blessed. And oh, God's been so good to me. I'm such a Christian. Oh, the Lord gave me the Sabbath. I take Saturday off. You sit there and call yourself a Christian and then you make excuses for the genocide of 2 million people? Seriously? You stand there and purport to be an evangelist like Billy Graham? Oh, you're the latest Billy Graham? You're our generation's America's pastor? Why? Because you said the right words? Because you said, God bless, God bless. God bless, my friend. Oh, I rebuke the devil in the name of Jesus. And then you go around from campus to campus making excuses for a famine?
Woof. Pretty heavy, huh? Yeah. Well, So now you can understand the 2 points of view. You know, you would think that they are on both sides of the same, sitting on the same side of the aisle. I don't know. I don't know what's next. I really don't know what is next. But we're going to talk in a minute. I had one more video, which I do have to find again, because for some reason it didn't come in. Okay. We're going to watch this and then we're going to talk, because this is where we are.
Then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough.
Prince.
We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens, because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making their country better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so that's where we are. The billionaires love that guy. So I've brought you a lot of information. We have gone from Che lives to Roger. We didn't really go into Kaczynski. You could throw him in there a little bit. But you see where we are? We're in a mess. And I am going to take the first flush of the day, and I'm choosing the flush of the day to be Prince. Eric Prince and his imperialistic techno-utopian bullshit. Bye-bye, Eric. Go down. Go down the toilet, Eric, Prince. Warmonger. Now they're talking about Africa. They're talking about Africa like we were talking about Latin America back in the 60s and the 70s. And so you think that Eric's not right there, especially since the orange turd is in control and his administration? What do you think? All right, so here we go. I'm glad you guys are here. I hope you like and subscribe. Let's talk about what you guys are talking about. No, not tonight. It wouldn't have been 11 o'clock tonight. No, Sunday is Pajama Sunday. I will have a regular schedule pretty soon. It's just really difficult for me right now between fostering kittens, harvesting my garden, cleaning up. I mean, there's a lot to do here, but I wanted to work on this show. I really wanted to work on this show and put everything together. Everything together. Hi, Ernie. A message from Mother Earth. Your blind arrogance will be your demise. And it seems to me that there's a lot of blind arrogance, especially in the United States. Teddy K was wrong in his methods, but he wasn't wrong about society. Absolutely. I like that. All right, let me see. I had a couple of favorites. I have no super chats to read. Okay, guys, that's I can deal with it. I wanted to read Kate. Hi, Kate. We go to court the 4th and 5th of November to ask for an injunction on logging of Stanley Park, taking the city of Vancouver and the Parks Board to court, going through the courts, not giant protests. That's sometimes how you have to do it. In the meantime, there is another blockade to protect old growth at Fairy Creek on Vancouver Island, and the First Nations is taking the folks at the blockade to court because First Nations want logging. Wow. So Kate has a story about what's going on up there and logging and parks, and I know that her husband was involved. And before I lost the channel, I was thinking about having him come on to tell the story of what's going on up there. You know, everybody, well, what is it? Nobody is immune from wanting money. No one is immune. Absolutely not. I'm sorry, but nobody is immune. You got your PJs on? I got my PJs on. Yep. All right, so let's look for some comments that may help with this, what I did. Become more French. Paris is currently more or less on fire. Lovely atmosphere. Smells like the Renaissance of revolution. Yes, because the climate crisis is growing deeper and more serious. And all of this fighting between the Groypers and the Christian nationalists and all of these people isn't going to mean a goddamn thing when it hits them. And it's hitting people all over the world. We see Volcaholic on X and on Blue Sky constantly showing what's happening with extreme weather. Janet, hello, Janet. Most of the drug trafficking comes up from the west side of South America and Mexico. The fentanyl comes from foreign countries like China and India. People forget that the U.S. government is responsible for a lot of it. And yes, it's all tied in with capitalism and the oligarchs and white supremacy. Thank you. A lot of us feel like that. Obsolete optics. Violence is not the answer. Violence is the question. And according to history, the answer is a definite, eternal, never-ending yes. Okay. Let's see. I have to go back because you guys are awesome and you listened. And I hope you got something from this, from the way my mind thinks. Commentator Jackson Hinkle is widely criticized, seemingly mostly by the Israel lobby and Israel press, for criticizing Israel, accusing it of lying, but he has posted a list of correct. Jackson Hinkle? Okay. Not the scientist. Are you talking about not the one that I don't like him, if that's who you're talking about. But everybody has the right to like who they like. I'm not here to tell you who to like and who not to like. I'm here to give you information. I'm here to put things together for you. I'm not an influencer. I don't know if I'm an influencer. I just like what I like. I like to bring information. Prince founded the private equity firm Frontier Resource Group in 2012 and was the chairman of the Hong Kong-listed Frontier Services Group until 2021. He's the son of engineer Edgar Prince and the brother of former U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. Yeah, she wasn't any good. And now we've got Linda McMahon. Need I say anymore? All right. So we are an hour. I didn't want to go too long. I wanted to recap. Shay lives. But does he? Are we revolutionaries? What do we want to see? Do we see that change can happen? Or are we going to give into nihilism and sit back and just say there's nothing I can do? Or are we going to do like local action? There's so much going on. Make a choice. Make a choice. Hi, Nadia. Devon, there'll be a time in the future when pentagons are seen as being as problematic as swastikas. I love you. I love you too. And I missed you because a lot of people did not follow me to Twitch, which I'm not on because it uses, right now I'm not. I'm just on X, Facebook, and here right now. Eventually I'll figure out Substack. But anyway. I want to see the hungry fed, the homeless housed, the planet healed, and peace reign. So do I. Is it a pipe dream? Can it happen? I can't answer that for you. I cannot. I could get in trouble just for putting that up. Isn't that something? Definitely, I have to mark this not for children. Yeah. And I don't want you guys to fight. There is a problem. Andy made a comment that I don't agree with, and most of us here don't agree with. Andy's from the UK. Andy's entitled to his opinion. Doesn't mean we have to like it. Andy's been a long time follower. Is anyone in the chat in a co-op right now and willing to take others in that already with an already live-in structure set up? I know, Melanie, you've been looking for something like that for a long time. If you guys know of something, you can write to me. I can get to Melanie, or figure out how you guys can get together. Hello, Rob. We're in a quasi-Cold War. Peace is impossible. Yeah. Is it your birthday today? Oh my gosh, I should have put the happy birthday. My God. You bought a super chat and you don't see it? I don't see it either. Oh my goodness, that's weird. I don't see it. But if you did and I see it afterwards, thank you so much, because I love you, Brett. I feel a lot of love, and it doesn't matter if I agree totally with you or not. You're our followers, and some of you are more radical, rebellious, more than I am, but it's okay. Oh, and your birthday's tomorrow. All right, Andy, I'm not going to put your comment up. Andy feels like Andy feels, but most of us don't. So, super chat is not enabled. I didn't undo that. I don't know how to redo it, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can all send me something through Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the show notes. I like Buy Me a Coffee. That's fine. Tom says, or T. Freeman, there are a couple of co-op living setups in Maine, but I only know of them because one had a space and they were looking to fill. Google co-op living in Maine. You might find something. I would like to see that happen. I know people talk about me, my place, and it's just not going to work for me. But I take in animals. I take it. Hey, the letter hack. Well, you know what? That gives me the perfect opportunity before we leave to segue into the fact that this space, progressive programming on YouTube and many other places, has been live since the beginning of June. It went live, a place for 24-hour progressive programming. Some of it is live, some of it is syndicated, and I will be starting my first show on Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. I will be on Nicole Sandler's show. I believe it's Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, so Thursday's going to be an incredibly crazy day for me. Oh, stop it. I like your take on things, but just not that. And we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. No, we're not, Andy, as long as I've known you. But anyway, this space it started, and then I got shit canned wrongly. And actually, the lawyers asked me how much money I lost by this, and I calculated by doing an average, I probably lost about $1,000 in 3 months. There's my taxes could have been paid in October. Well, they're due. I mean, now my taxes are due now. My school taxes. I don't have it, and it's enough, Andy. We got your point. Come on, knock it off. We're open in this chat. Okay. Sandy's program's this Thursday, 5 p.m. This space. Yep. There we go. Oh, here it is. All right. I put a link to Industrial Society and its future in the Discord chat. Need a mod to drop an invite link since I'm not a mod anymore. I don't know why. Okay, well, we can look at that. I don't know why either. Things changed. I didn't even do them. I haven't even looked at half the stuff on the channel, actually. So anyway, listen. I appreciate you all. And I'm not whining. I can whine. Taxes are taxes. We all got to pay them. I'm cosmically blessed because I am the caretaker by virtue of the fact that I have a piece of paper that says I own 5.5 acres that I have rewilded, but we never really own it. We never really own it. No matter what the capitalists say, no matter what the consumers say, and I am a consumer, and I will never say I'm not. Look around me, look what I'm wearing, look what I do. I'm not going to lie. I'm a consumer. I want to thank you for coming. I will be here Tuesday night. I'm hoping that Antonio will be with me Tuesday to make up for the Saturday night because he went out for his birthday. And he's amazing. I should have invited him on this show. Holy shit. But hey, listen. Hey, it's okay. Girlfriend, you can be late to the party. You can always watch it over. My gosh. Yep, we really are. We are merely caretakers of our land. And we pay for the privilege for taking care of things. That's right. That's right. What time? Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm on every Tuesday. That's the one thing I can say. Every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to maybe look at Fridays, but not now. It's just too busy for me. And I do like this Sunday morning gig. I really do. I like Pajama Sunday. I like my pajamas. But I've got things. I got more pickles to make. I got kitties to take care of. But I just want you all to realize that this space is actually going to be and is coming up in the world. It's a place where you can go, and if you want to, like I do, just put your little things on and listen to all these different people all day long. 3 days a week so far. And I have to say that Matt, the letter hack, has put in a lot of effort with others, with Ben and Nick. You'll see. Yep. And I am energized today because I have a lot of good things to do, and I'm very, very happy. Holy shit. Thank you so much, Kim. Oh my God. And of course, I have to give Alex and the Climate Crisis Club on X on Saturdays, which is a shout out, because where I learn about people from the world that come into that space that talk about the climate crisis and what they're doing in their countries, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Hey, T-Bone. All right. Well, it's 10 minutes of me blabbing at the end, but thank you, Ernie, and thank you, everyone. I'm really appreciative. I just want you to think about the history that I brought you and how we have gotten where we've gotten. My daughter seems to think it's social media, and she's on a rail. Let me tell you, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I'm going to get her on here with me one of these days. Yeah. All right, guys. Let me see if I've got my beautiful, vibrant field of sunflowers. Yay! Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, Looney, for moderating. I know it's too early for Kim. Thank you, Bella, for moderating. Alex, I love you. I really have a lot of love. I'm not a violent person. So I guess that answers that. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.